Welcome to the Purpose with Purvis show. I'm Jacklyn Purvis, and I'm here with my dad, my mentor, my business partner, Jamie Purvis. We're the father-daughter coaching team and co-founders of the Be Do Have movement. Each week, we're going to be diving into real-life strategies, inspiring stories to help you dream big, find your purpose, and take actionable steps towards living the life you've always wanted. Welcome back to this episode of the Purpose with Purvis show. Today, we're talking all about resiliency in real estate, primarily through what we've seen, number one, but number two as well, Jamie, continuing that conversation from last pod and last episode when you introduce the concept of you really start to figure out and trust the process and know that there's ebbs and flows in business and know that there's winters just as much of summers. So there's that growth just as much as I don't know what the opposite of that is, 0% growth. But I've always admired that about you. And you mentioned that really does truly come from being seasoned in the industry.
Yeah, I think in anything, right? If you do something long enough, you'll understand there's a flow. And I learned this very early on in real estate. There's the spring season, which is listings come on the market. There's a lot of activity. Summer slows down, picks up in the fall. Winter slows down. It just happened to be corresponding with the seasons in Canada. But there's seasons to business. And sometimes, you know what, you can do everything in your power and you're fighting resistance of the market, interest rates, global economies, unemployment, right? So all that can have an effect on your actual business in that moment in time. If we do the work, we show up as the person we need to, we stay positive, we stay consistent, we stay resilient. If we just keep showing up as that person, things will always get better in the future. We're going to turn the corner. And in the moment of a market that maybe we're not getting the results we expected, there's still always opportunities. So being open and looking for the opportunity within the market, being fluid and flowing. You shared that on the last podcast, right? Just being fluid and understanding sometimes what worked in the past isn't working in this market or at this time, or maybe never again. Maybe it's evolving and things have changed. That's why it's important, I believe, to have a growth mindset and be open to new possibilities and be open to change, creating change in our life and in our skill set. And it's all tied into, for me, just knowing, okay, there's the seasons. We flow. It's going to be fine. Things will always work out. You're going to get that phone call out of the blue, as we say, that somebody gives you an introduction, says, hey, you should reach out to this person because they're looking to bring on a new trainer in the office. Like, that's what happens. We just don't always know when that's going to happen or who it's going to be or how it's going to show up. So just being confident, knowing that it's going to work out. It's going to be fine. I just have to maintain my mindset and my focus.
And life does happen, right? Like there's things that are always going to be outside of our control that impact everything. Now, if you're a new agent coming into the industry, it's probably a bit of a smack in the face, I could understand, right? Especially if you're coming from a corporate setting where you're used to like every 2 weeks, you're getting like a structured pay period and a pay stub, and this is what it looks like. And now you're moving into this where, well, what have you seen? Like how often is an average agent getting paid based on a sale?
It can be weekly. It can be monthly. It depends on the sales, obviously. And to your point, I think the new agents they have an advantage right now because they have no comparison. They have nothing to reflect back on or compare it to, right? So if you've been in the business for a year and you know what, that's all you know a tougher market. People say it's tough because of maybe their experience. It's the market, right? It's just the market. So if you're brand new and that's the market you're in and this is the environment, that's all you know. So I find the agents that are coming into real estate that have been in real estate for a shorter period of time, maybe a couple of years, they tend to be doing really well. It's the agents that have been around longer that are having the harder time because what worked in the past is definitely not working today. They have to do things different. Maybe there's more outreach. Maybe there's more connection calls. Maybe you have to be more proactive because in the past, you put up a sign and there was buyers all over the place. There was 15 offers. It really didn't take a whole lot to become a top agent and make a lot of money because you just showed up. And this market here isn't about showing up. It's in addition to showing up, it's about being skill set, being proactive, being focused, and doing activities consistently. So the agents that have been around for a while are the ones that are really having the harder time. And interestingly enough, I'm talking 20 years. Like realtors that have been in the business 20 years, they've never been through this market that we're in right now. And we're recording this when? End of October 2025. So they've never been through this. I've been through this because I've been around since 1996. So I'm almost 40 years in the business. So I've been up and I've been down and I've been up and I've been down. So to your point earlier, the longer you do something, the more you realize, okay, it'll always be better at a point in time in the future.
So two things on that then. Are you finding that like the very seasoned agents understand the resiliency required in the business, and it's almost like what the 10-year ones that are struggling perhaps with the adaptability of the change in the sales process or the change in the approach to how you're getting sales?
Yeah, I think it's both on how you're getting sales. To that point, what hasn't changed is the human connection. And this is where AI, as good as it is, it's not connecting, and it has the ability to connect with human beings yet. It might come in the future, but not just yet. That's what we have in most service-based businesses. We have relationship. And that's the opportunity I think that brand new people have. If they can just see that, okay, this is a relationship-based business and you can be proactive, however it needs to be based on how you like to do business and have fun doing it, but be proactive in generating business, you're going to be fine. Like you will be very fine in this current market. Because I know there's realtors having great years. So if they're having great years, that means others can have great years. So the only reason maybe you're not is because what you're thinking or what you're doing or who you're being. To your other point, like the agents that have been around for, I'm going to put it out there and challenge anybody that's been in the industry 20 years, between 15 and 20 years, it was really easy. Yes, you worked hard. I'm not defending the fact you didn't work hard, you put in long hours, but business was pretty easy. You didn't have to deal with the unemployment that we have. You didn't have to deal with interest rates that went up faster than ever in history. You didn't have to deal with world economies that are basically bankrupt and the banks and the governments are depreciating their value of their currency and printing money. And that's why everything's getting so expensive and the pressures of that and being behind on the mortgage and losing your house. And they haven't been through this because it was pretty easy for a long time. So to go through that when you've never been through it, you have to adjust, just like I had to do it when we went through a downward market for 7 years in the 90s.
Let's talk about that then. How does one start to adjust when they don't have the experience of, I've been through this before?
The first thing I'm going to suggest is you reach out and you get great mentorship. Okay. Get connected with your office managers. Find a coach. Find somebody that's been where you are now, because that'll help you. Because if not, you got to go through the pain and the struggle like I did. Because first thing you do is you recede, right? You just start looking. You don't look around anymore. You just realize, okay, I got a problem, and now I'm going to stay focused in what I'm doing. And what you did in the past isn't going to get you where you want to go in the future, especially when the market's changed. So surround yourself with people that are exceeding, that are selling, that are doing business in the current market, because they're going to have a different conversation than speaking to somebody that hasn't sold a house for 3-6 months. So one of the things I would first thing tell the realtors is don't talk to other realtors. Be careful who you talk to, because they're either going to reinforce the story that they have, which could be your story, and now you justify it, you blame the market. Or you surround yourself with people that are still selling and they understand it's maybe more difficult. It's a different market. They're still selling. They're going to have a different conversation. They're going to inspire and empower you, right? And I think the third piece for everybody is working on your skill set. We need to be better skilled as realtors, as salespeople. And if you're not working on that, then you're missing tons of opportunities that are right in front of you right now because we're not seeing them. We don't have the skill set to see them or the ability to connect with people and pull out the right information.
So two components you just said there that let's expand on is needing that new skill set, and then you also said you need a new way of thinking. You can't use the same thinking or the same actions that you've done before to get through this stage because you haven't gone through this stage like this before. So those habits and programming in a sense won't work to get you through this. You need that different approach. And that comes down to conscious and subconscious programming, essentially, and really understanding your operating system. So if something's not working right now, it feels like everything's probably failing. It's really easy that starts snowballing, right, into different areas of your life, from relationships, your personal life, probably your health even. So it does need to be, okay, how am I looking at what's controlling 95% of my output, which is your subconscious. How are you reprogramming that so you can think and act and operate in a different way? And like you just said, that comes to new skill sets, that comes to the people you're surrounded by, that comes to the information that you're feeding yourself. So just get really particular. Like that's almost the first step, right? Like our mindset reset tool is a great way to help with that overwhelm, to figure out that first step, and then putting on blinders. Like who is not healthy for you personally right now at this stage that you're in, and who is.
Avoid complainers. Like that's the first thing that comes to my mind. If anybody's complaining about anything, you either run to it or are attracted to it, or it repels you and you need to get away from it. I don't need to hear why things aren't working. Like that's obvious in my mind. Let's talk about how we can make it work in this market. So if this is what I want, how do I make it happen? Right? So asking a different question versus, this used to work in the past, or I used to do this, because that won't work. That's the mindset that keeps you stuck, right? That's that subconscious thinking, beliefs, habits. They control everything we do. So if we're not rewriting and upgrading our own operating system, our mind, like your computer, right? Nobody's running Windows 7 or Windows 9 anymore, or 10. Like we evolve, right? Computers, though, are updated behind the scenes, right? We don't have to do anything. Sometimes we say start now and that's it, but they're automatically updated. So if we're not updating this, then how are we operating? And that goes to what are we doing and who are we being? And I think that's a great thing to think about, a great question you ask yourself. If I want a different result, who do I have to become? How would I be thinking? Who would I be hanging around? The environments are key, like my physical environment, right? My mental environment and my social environment.
And that's the key factor to resiliency, what you just shared, those 3 environments. That's going to help you when things feel hard. If you don't have that natural strength or that experience, I don't want to say natural strength, I guess experience of going through this before, right? Like controlling those areas, and maybe not controlling even, what would be a better word for that?
I think being aware of it, first of all, choosing, and you get to do it, right? You get to choose that.
So getting very intentional with your inner circle. Like who's the 5 people you're leaning to most right now? And if you don't know if you're one of those soul suckers, we'll call them, the complainers, like you're just stuck in your own shit a little bit, a great tip is sending a voice note to yourself. Next time you feel like calling someone and complaining about something, voice note it to yourself on your phone. It's a therapeutic practice to get it out in a way that it's not gossiping to other people. And then B, you also get to hear back, like, how are you sounding right now? How are you coming off? How can you critically critique yourself to notice if you are being that person so you can make that adjustment?
That's a great tip. That's a great hack. And interesting, if you heard yourself complain, you're probably going to either not listen to the whole thing or really be disgusted probably with yourself. It's like, yeah, okay, baby, suck it up, right? Let's figure this out. And sometimes that's the hard truth of being responsible, right? Like you got to pick up yourself and self-motivate yourself, because motivation comes from within. I see that all the time when I'm in programs and I'm doing workshops. I can inspire and empower you in a conversation. Short window of time, I can do that. The minute I leave, it's on you. It's your responsibility now to take that and motivate yourself. And if you don't, and that's why the subconscious and our habits keep us stuck, we can consciously get excited about what's going on. And I love this. And we see this at motivational events, right? I'm really excited. You get home, and the longer you're home without immersing yourself in that new frame of mind, that new thinking, you will go exactly back to the way you used to be. It's habit. It's process. So you have to make a choice in this journey.
And the most dangerous thing to do in that state is when you do start to step out of it, it's who you're around. If you're around a bunch of naysayers in that space and you're like up here and they're down here, they're just going to drag you back down. It's the easiest thing to do. So sometimes it is being a little bit of a loner until you figure out that new path, that new community, that new space. And it does take some courage to step out of that and willingly admit to yourself that you want more.
Courage is absolutely required. And I think courage comes behind awareness. Because if we're not aware of where we are, we can't change. And I shared an experience I had recently. I went for a coffee and I sat down. There's two realtors I knew. We sat down for a coffee and they were telling me how bad the market was. All I asked them, how are things going? Both of them, one said it's bad and the other one they were basically telling each other how bad it was. So, of course, in my state, I said, pattern interrupt. We're going to stop that thinking. Let's reframe the market not being bad. How about this idea? The market's different. See, they knew what it used to be like. How about if it's different from what we knew, here's what it is now. So the market's different. So in this market, what's required? Who do you have to become? How resilient do you have to be? Like, do you want to be strong enough to reach out and connect with your clients and check in on them? Like, how are they doing? And one of the guys was inspired because he said, I've always wanted to do more social media and sharing my message. Well, after our meeting, within 24 hours, guess what? He started to share his message about what's going on in the market. So inspiring people. And that's the goal. But it all comes after awareness. And if we're not aware, we're going to, that environment, it's going to support you to grow or it's going to suck you down and keep you stuck. And you have a choice in that.
And it is taking that action. It is leaning into creating new habits, creating new programming, and essentially rebooting your operating system. And this happens at many points too, right? Like this, yeah, of course it happens when the market's taking a hit and now you're like needing new skills to get through this state. But it also happens when you're very successful and you're reaching sort of a ceiling. So you see that with your one-to-one clients that are doing very well, but they want to break through the ceiling that they've reached for themselves. Someone else could look at that and be like, I want to get to that point, but everyone can reach their own individual income ceiling, if you will. So you're also having to reprogram through that. There's many different areas and times when you're reprogramming that subconscious.
It's constant. It's pulling aside market factors. Our last month is going to be different from this month. So we see this often, right? You might have a great sales month. Everyone's confident, everyone's happy, money's coming in. And then all of a sudden there's not enough pipeline, there's not enough business. And then business starts to go down and we get deflated and we start to get nervous and we get scared and we start to get anxious. So where's the deal coming from? And then the payments start. And then we go through this cycle. And that's pattern, right? I'm a big believer in looking at patterns because patterns are going to show us where the opportunity is. Most of the change in my life has happened when I've been at the lowest or on a downward slide. When you're succeeding, everything's great. Everyone's cocky. Everyone's a shooter. You see it on social media. They're the greatest thing in the world. You don't see as much as that right now, right? And when you do, everybody has enough intuition to know, okay, it's either BS, right? Or it's authentic. So being authentic, I think, is important. And authentically understand, okay, this is a process, I'm going through it, and pull out judgment, I'm just going to become better every day. And teamwork, like you mentioned that, right? Your inner circle, it's so important right now. So important. It's always important, now more than ever.
We had that written down here. Your business becomes predictable when you stop trying to be someone else. So it is getting to that alignment with yourself, and I think relying on like the courage and the growth and the goals and just being someone that wants more. Like I think that makes you stand out as an individual alone. So even having that seed planted in you that you do want more and leaning into that at that deeper core, like you're on the right track. I want to remind anyone here, like keep going.
And wanting more or achieving a goal, same thing. I'm a big sports fan, right? And you look at what the Blue Jays just did. They just won the American League Championship. They were down 2-0 in games. Only 3 teams in all of history have ever come back after being down 2-0. And they came back, and then they got behind, and then it goes right to Game 7. And you saw the power of a team, right? There was just this air of confidence, and they were like one game at a time. One game at a time. Like even when they started winning, it's like one at a time. And then this teamwork. And then bottom of the 7th. And I'm starting to wonder, it's like, oh, so close. Like, oh, is it going to happen?
Is
and
it
you
the
start
Toronto
to doubt
curse?
it. Oh, let's not go there. And then you just saw it, right? The bottom of the 7th. And then one person gets on base, right? And then you started to see this momentum. And the second person gets on base. And both those batters hit a ball against the pitcher who had struck everybody out for the entire series. And now you're seeing this momentum. And then there's a bunt. And then now they're second or third. Then the guy comes up and hits a home run. One swing of the bat changed the entire game, change the series. One swing at the bat, right? And it's one swing, one base, one run at a time. And you saw this camaraderie and the momentum. That's why I love sports. So after that, you sit back and you realize, and I just compare it to what I'm going through in our business, right? It's just, you have to want to win. You have to want to keep being the best. You're doing it for others. You're doing it for your team. It's this whole culmination of what it takes to, I believe, win in life today. And for me, winning is become the best I can be. Keep working with people, helping them survive. Let's get through to the next evolution of what our lives and business looks like, and never give up. Right? So it goes back to what you shared, right? Resilience. You don't give up till the end of the game. Like realtors that have given up already, we're not done the year. Why would you give up? Like play full out to the end, to the buzzer. That's a habit. That's a pattern, right? I can talk about this forever, but I just love the concept of looking at sports analogies and what are winners doing, and the secret's right there, right? They're just not giving up. They're just working together to achieve a common goal.
And it's breaking it down, like to take that now into your business, right? It's figuring out what you need to do and then breaking it down to the most minimal version of that. So thinking from a business generating perspective, right? Like that activity that you're doing to generate leads, whatever that is specific to you and your business, what's the most minimal version of that? So even on the bad days, you're still doing something. So it's not 50 calls a day, right? Like you're breaking that down. I'm opening your CRM every day. So even if there's like the worst day possible, you can still say you opened it up. That's still keeping that momentum going forward. That's still taking steps. That's still making progress. So figuring out what that thing is for yourself, and then what's the ridiculous small version of that, that minimal 2-minute version. And that's the hack to build the momentum and keep going. It's just not stopping.
Not stopping. I like to use a range when we set goals, right? So you have your minimum standard, your target, and your outrageous. So if your activity, and anybody listening to this, what's the one thing you know you should be doing that you may or not, you probably aren't doing, but if you did it more consistently on a regular basis, you know your business would grow. What's that one thing? It's going to be different for everybody. Now, taking that and building that into a system, a pattern, a new habit. So like you said, Jacklyn, you sit down, you have your coffee, you open up your computer, you open your CRM, and there's your database, and there's everybody you know. So today, the minimum standard is what? How many contacts are you going to make? How many conversations? I'm pounding the drum right now is a minimum standard of 5 a day. If you need a range, 3, 5, 10. Create a range for yourself. What is your minimum standard every single day? And if that became what you did every single day, it's like taking the swing at the bat. Sooner or later, you're going to start hitting singles, doubles, home runs are coming.
So it's being yourself in that process and committing to that one action. You know, really simplifying it, I think, on those hard days of still taking a step forward until you get back into that flow, until things start becoming easier, because they will. They will. It's just keep going, keep trusting the process, keep believing in yourself throughout that journey. And we've included below to a tool, Mindset Reset, to really help with overwhelm, stress, stuckness, help you break through and break down and move through into that best next step for you and your business. So that's a free resource to check out there. Thank you so much for talking with us, and like, subscribe, share, follow. We'd love to hear what stood out to you most. We'll talk to you soon.